Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Franklin here, and today we got ourselves a brand new video. Shout outs to the person in the community tab for responding to what kind of topic that I should have for the next video. So, thank you for that idea, and it was a pretty cool idea because after playing Scarlet and Violet for quite a while now, I think these are my personal top 5 biggest nerfs that I've seen that might have affected the entire metagame of Generation 9. So before we get right into it, please like and subscribe. You guys have been killing it for me, and I appreciate all the support. You guys are part of the reason why I revitalized my channel. So shout outs to you guys. Let's continue to smash that like and subscribe button. Let's get straight into the video. So one big nerf or a series of nerfs were pretty much to Zamazunta Crown and Zaishin Crown. So I'm going to talk about these two Pokemon together because they got similar nerfs. First of all, their abilities, Dauntless, Shield, and Interpret Sword, can only activate once per battle. So the moment you get your boost and you switch out, it cannot activate anymore. Very interesting for Zamazenta Crown because this Pokemon is pretty unkillable because of its massive stats in defense and special defense. For Zaishin Crown, it's still a menace. I think with all the nerfs, Zaishin Crown is still like a supreme Pokemon because this Pokemon is so incredibly fast. It hits incredibly hard regardless of the boost. It does have access to Swords Dance, which makes this Pokemon even more crazier to deal with. Another nerf that these Pokemon actually ended up getting was Zaishin Crown. I believe in its Crown form lost 20 stats in attack, so now it's at 150 rather than 170, and its base I believe lost 10. Zamazenta really got nerfed to hell. This Pokemon at its crown form had 130 attack. It's now back to 120. And its defense and special defense were actually at 145 from the previous generation. So they lost 5 points per defense and special defense. Pretty unfortunate for Zamazenta because now it loses the crown of being one of the best competitive Uber Pokemon out there. But one redeeming factor of Zamazenta Crown and its regular normal base version is the addition of Body Press. Body Press is phenomenal with this Pokemon because this Pokemon's defense is already beautiful as is. And the fact that when you pair this with Iron Defense, woo-wee, call GG's. This Pokemon is actually really good in OU. And I'm talking about its base form. Really good. One of the best movesets I would say is Body Press, Iron Defense, Substitute, and Crunch, Terra Dark, and you just start eating ghosts for free. Anything that does not resist or actually does not is not immune to Body Press. GG's. Pretty hard to deal with that. So these two Pokemon overall, yeah, they got nerfed to hell, man. Especially Zamazenta. Poor Zamazenta. This Pokemon never stood a chance. We all knew that Zaishin Crown was the best legendary out of the two. But man, they just decided to chew and spit out Zamazenta in Generation 9. Next up we have is not Greninja, but rather the ability Protean. So Protean allows any Pokemon with this ability to change its typing with the move it uses. This also will be paired with Libero, so Cinderace. So pretty much the big three that uses these kind of abilities is Meowscarada, Greninja, and Cinderace. Of course, if you use a move that does not share a stab, so for example, if Greninja decides to use Ice Beam, it would change it to an Ice type Pokemon and deal the damage prior to stab calculation and all that. So it was pretty cool. However, it's only once per switch in. So let's say your Greninja stays in, uses the Ice Beam example that I use. If I decide to go for Grass Knot, it cannot change to Grass. So if you want to use a different typing, you have to switch the Pokemon out. What's pretty cool about Protean Libero is not a once per battle, which you'll probably see with a lot of these Pokemon's, abilities getting nerfed to hell and back, like our good old buddies Aishin and Zamazenta. But I really think that Meowscarada and Cinderace in particular are still good, even with the nerf. Greninja, I would say, yeah, it's still good, but in comparison to the competitive metagame that Cinderace and Meowscarada could potentially alternate because of that kind of nerf, I do think Protean and Libero are still pretty damn good. Greninja, not so much. Speaking about Greninja, did you know that there's a Ash Greninja in the game? Nah, I'm just kidding. They decided to leave, and I mean the Pokemon Company and Game Freak, decided to leave Ash Greninja behind in Generation 7. Yes, there's no more Ash Greninja. Technically, it does not exist anymore. Sad face. But its ability made its way into Generation 9. However, it's a little different. So rather than you transforming into a behemoth in OU like it was in Generation 7, after you KO a Pokemon, Greninja's attack, special attack, and speed will increase by 1 stage. And it's only once per battle, so you cannot keep KOing Pokemon and get +1s. That would be pretty nutty. That'd be busted, overpowered, destructive. But I kind of made a video about this already, explaining Greninja Battle Bond wasn't going to be very prevalent. I was a little wrong. If you want to check out that video, it's in the channel somewhere. But I will admit, I am kind of wrong about this, because this Pokemon has been seeing a lot of usage with Rain. Why Rain? Well, because of Water Shuriken boosted in weather, such as rain, of course. Then you have Stab, and then you have Terra Water if you really want to do it. I put here Terra Ghost because once it gets to +1, the biggest Pokemon that it has to deal with is Dragonite. And Dragonite love to extreme speed you, especially when you're using Life Orb and you already have chipped from Life Orb or Rocks, whatever. Terra into Ghost, you're not worried about any type of extreme speed shenanigans. So really, really cool Pokemon to use under certain circumstances. I think Rain in particular is where it shines, the most in comparison to, its Protean counterpart. I think Battle Bond Greninja has been more prevalent than its Protean counterpart. So I'll admit I might have been wrong on the assessment of Greninja prior to Pokemon Home release, but overall I think this Pokemon, once it gets to +1, it's just, wow, crazy. And I have to put nerfs in quotation marks with some of these Pokemon because, yeah, some of these nerfs might have been a blessing in disguise. And sure, it's a way to introduce terrestrialization, making sure the competitive formats are more balanced nowadays, but do they really call them nerfs for a reason? Maybe, maybe not. Next up we have is Rollerboom. And you might be wondering, what the hell are you talking about Rollerboom? Let me tell you something, man. Back in my day, in Generation 8, after the release of the Aloe Armor with the Move Tutor, especially Grassy Glide, Rollerboom was arguably an S-tier Pokemon. And if it wasn't for Dragapult and if it wasn't for Corviknight being the two quote-unquote walls for this Pokemon could have been the best non-legendary Pokemon in the game. Why was that? Well, they first introduced us to Grassy Search, where this Pokemon has its hidden ability, which allows it to summon grassy terrain. But the biggest swag boost for this Pokemon was Grassy Glide, in which is a priority move that only works as a priority move in grassy terrain. So if you have grassy terrain activated, you get to move first with Grassy Glide, on top of having the stab boost from Rollerboom and the boost of grassy terrain. Grassy Glide was phenomenal. In Generation 9, unfortunately, Rollerboom took a turn for the worst. I had a couple of actual reasons, too. It lost Superpower, which is yikes. Now you can't beat those Ferrothorns anymore. Then it lost High Horsepower. And High Horsepower, and yes, it can learn Stomping Tantrum, but Stomping Tantrum does get nerfed by Grassy Surge or Grassy Terrain, so it doesn't really work that well. High Horsepower basically bypasses terrain, grassy terrain, and does massive damage to Pokemon that get affected by that. And then, of course, I already talked about it, the biggest nerf was Grassy Glide. Now, Rillaboom, in these competitive metagames nowadays, it kind of runs this set I've been seeing lately. I've actually used this myself. It's more so just setting up terrain for Hawlucha and Sneasler. Sneasler is just a monster because it benefits from the additional, defense stat from Grassy Seed, as well as, bulking up some of its defense against ground-type moves that aren't Earth Power or whatever other ground-type moves are not affected by grassy terrain. So, Rollerboom, unfortunately, man, crazy how to see that one move, a couple moves, completely derails a Pokemon from being actually good. But I do think Rollerboom still has a unique niche in just setting up terrain for its buddies that will allow them to sweep or give them some defensive bulk when it comes to ground-type moves. And then we have number 1 overall, and it's a pretty big change to competitive Pokemon. I'm talking about these fat Pokemon, man. I know some of y'all play stall. I know some of y'all hate Stall. I'm the guy that destroys Stall. I eat Stall for breakfast. I am tired of these fat, smiley face ass Pokemon just standing there doing nothing. Just recover, 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 roost, protect, protect. What, man? Fuck all that shit. Anyways, pretty big nerf, and I think it's the biggest nerf in competitive Pokemon we've seen in a very long time. Recover, roost, rest. Similar moves that recover HP for Pokemon have been reduced in the amount of times you can use them. I'm pretty sure Morning Sun also qualifies for that too, even though Morning Sun cannot be learned by Toxapex. But yeah, so these moves, recovery moves, their PP got nerfed. Pause. They got nerfed from 16, which usually has been the common number of PP, all the way down to 8. What does that entail? It means that these Pokemon can't just sit there and press stall, recover, 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 roost, roost, rest. And I'm putting Toxapex as an example because Toxapex does rely heavily on recover because it's a very defensive juggernaut. But this also, works for Clodsire. And Clodsire is a pretty good competitive Pokemon right now. Blissey is somewhat pretty good at this point in time. And then we also have Corviknight. Corviknight's still really good, and it has access to Roost as well. So those Pokemon that just sit there and just hold the metagame together by just being fat, stalling your opponent out, and just simply recovering, it kind of affects a lot of game plans because nowadays you have to be really careful of using moves like that. Because now since they've been reduced to 8, you have to plan very carefully. You have to determine when is the right turn to recover. Do I need to recover? Pokemon like Toxapex don't really need to worry about that so much because of their ability. Regenerator that you see as well with Galarian Slowking. They really love to switch out, and most likely they probably will, depending on the threat that's sitting in front of them. However, again, it's just game planning. You have 8 turns to use 8 roosts, 8 recovers, 8 rests. And all depends. I'm actually going to throw in Dondozo as well in this tier of Pokemon that are fat and just sit there smiling because it relies heavily on rest. And it actually has a really good effect, or I should say ability, in Unaware. So those are pretty much my biggest nerfs that I've seen in competitive Pokemon. So obviously, just to recap, we got the Zacian Zamazenta duo. We got Protean Pokemon. Then we have Greninja, Battle Bond, Rollerboom. Rollerboom is kind of interesting because this can technically fall for any Pokemon that had a lot of their moves deleted out of their movesets. But to me personally, seeing Rollerboom becoming an S tier all the way to, fringe, a niche Pokemon in competitive play, yeah, it's pretty sad. And then, of course, number one, to me personally, I think maybe these recovery moves are number one overall, like the biggest nerfs that changed the way we play Pokemon. So, yeah, there you have it. Appreciate all the support you guys have given me. If you guys have any buffs or nerfs that you guys want to talk about, please let me know in the comment section down below. I will be trying to pump out more videos. That way you guys can enjoy. Hey, and let me know what other type of video ideas you guys have. That way I can, talk to my audience a little bit more and see what they want to see on this channel. All right? See you guys. It's your boy Franklin signing out. Peace.